These days, there are few things that Democrats and Republicans can agree on, but apparently, and maybe bizarrely, they're on the same page about Chief Justice John Roberts. According to a new Gallup survey, Roberts has the highest approval rating amongst a list of leaders across the federal government. He's also the only one to receive a majority approval rating from Republicans, Democrats, and independents. It's a surprising result, considering that the Supreme Court's overall reputation has taken a major hit in this past year. A separate Gallup poll from this past September found that the approval rating of the Supreme Court overall had sunk to a record low 40%. That's down nearly 20 points from July of 2020. Gallup's latest survey is a sign of how the Chief Justice is attuned to the polarized political climate and is trying to preserve the legitimacy of the Supreme Court, even as voting rights and abortion rights are taking a massive hit on his watch. Roberts himself is a staunch conservative, but the court has shifted so far to the right that he's become something of a swing vote in recent years, with Trump appointees having remade that court in a hard right image. A court that appears ready and willing to throw out generations of legal precedent in favor of hard right ideology and partisan politics. And if this new poll is any indication, John Roberts' little dance is working. His attempts to separate his own reputation from that of his right-wing court are working. Weirdly, people like him, even as they disapprove of the court. Joining me now is Melissa Murray, a law professor at NYU and an MSNBC legal analyst. She also clerked for Justice Sonia Sotomayor during her time at the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. Also with us is Megan Hatcher-Mays, the Director of Democracy Policy for the progressive group Indivisible. Thank you both for joining me this morning. Happy New Year. Megan, let me start with you. Most politicians today can only dream about having a bipartisan approval rating like the one John Roberts has just gotten in this new Gallup survey. What is his appeal to Democrats and Republicans alike? And tell us why you think he doesn't deserve it.
I'm really excited to tell you why I think he doesn't deserve it. I think that, this has a lot of shades of, Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi saying, oh, we need a strong Republican Party. That's what makes this country great. And I think there probably are a lot of liberals who believe that. And John Roberts kind of represents that type of person, right? He's respectable. He went to Harvard. He seems nice enough. And so even though he's doing all this really bad stuff, he's figured out a way to do it kind of without getting any bad PR, right? And so even though he's gutted the Voting Rights Act, and even though he rewrote Obamacare to make it more difficult to implement and made it worse, and even though he gutted the VRA again last June, for some reason, none of this is sticking to him. But he's not a good guy, and he's not our friend. John Roberts has been dedicated to gutting the Voting Rights Act since the 1980s. He's a dyed-in-the-wool sort of Ronald Reagan conservative. He's been wanting to do this since he left law school, and he finally got the chance to do it in 2013. So everybody out there who's upset at what they're seeing at the state level in Georgia and Texas and Wisconsin and other states, Florida, where they're trying to make it more difficult for people of color to vote, John Roberts is the chief architect that allowed that to happen. In the past, those states would have had to have gotten approval before putting those sort of racist voter suppression laws into place. John Roberts says you don't need to do that anymore. So that's why we're here. That's why Georgia's passing laws making it illegal to hand out water bottles in line. It's because of him.
When I hear you talk about John Roberts in that way, it reminds me of liberals gushing over George W. Bush simply because Donald Trump has made Bush look good. It's almost as if Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh make John Roberts look good, but there's nothing independently good about him. Melissa, John Roberts may have gotten a high approval rating, but the Supreme Court isn't that popular these days. I wonder, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because from one perspective, it's a good thing. It might prompt Democrats to reform the court, expand the court. On the other hand, it's an important institution in our American system of government. And if people don't have faith in it, that's just, more of this democracy in crisis talk.
I think that's exactly right, Mehdi. This is a moment, I think, where the court faces a kind of existential crisis. It is facing a number of very high-profile cases. The fact that some of these cases are on the court's docket is a testament to the fact that the composition of the court has changed. Now they have the votes to put whatever they'd like on their docket and to decide it in whatever ways that they would like. And they are definitely moving in a more conservative direction. As you've noted, as Megan has noted, John Roberts seems to be the swing justice, but that really is only a testament to the fact of how far this court has tilted to the right, because he is, in fact, quite conservative.
Yes, he is. And this just reminds us of how the right-wing drift in American politics affects all of our institutions. Megyn, the Supreme Court, you and I have talked about this before. Let's talk about it again. If its popularity continues to plummet, if it goes after abortion rights in the way that it seems to be going after abortion rights, will that prompt the Democrats, will that prompt institutionalist Joe Biden to finally get behind Supreme Court reform and, dare I say, expansion?
I mean, I obviously don't hope for a bad outcome in the abortion cases, but if anyone was listening to the oral arguments last December, it doesn't look good for Roe v. Wade. It seems very clear to me that there are 6 votes to overturn it, or at the best case scenario, to gut it beyond recognition. So unfortunately, as human beings, it's hard for us to try to imagine what the bad thing will be. Like, a bad thing has to happen and then we react to the bad thing. But I need people to understand that the bad thing has already happened many, many times. They've already gutted public sector unions. They've already gutted the VRA twice. The fact that they took this case at all, just like Professor Murray was saying, the fact that they took this abortion case at all tells you everything you need to know. This Mississippi case is plainly unconstitutional on its face under current law, and they took it because they are way outside of the mainstream of like legal thinking and of the American public. It's very, very scary. So I do think that something like that will ultimately, and the gun cases that were mentioned in the previous segment, those might be the catalyst to actually get Democrats to kind of get on board with changing how the court works, and court expansion among all the reforms is the most important that Congress can consider. But people do need to understand that the bad thing has already occurred, and we need those reforms now. We don't need to wait for more bad stuff to happen before we change the composition of the court.
But a lot of liberals will be worried that more bad stuff is happening this year. Melissa, Megyn says Roe v. Wade is in trouble. Do you agree with that view? And if they do overturn it fully and comprehensively, do you think they'll even bother trying to put up any kind of convincing legal argument, or will it just be naked ideology and partisan politics?
Well, I think Roe versus Wade is definitely in the crosshairs. I think we saw that in the oral arguments on December 1st. And I think we also saw it in the fact that the court decided to take up that question of Texas SB 8 and left that law intact and in force in the state of Texas, where millions of women of reproductive age have been without their full constitutional rights for over 3 months now. So all of this suggests that this is a court that has deep antipathy for reproductive rights. If there is some compromise to be brokered, it is not a compromise that leaves Roe fully intact, but rather, again, chips away incrementally at the edges, leaving that decision open for a full-scale assault at a later time. And there are more and more abortion cases percolating in the lower federal court. So this is only a matter of time with this conservative 6-3 supermajority.
Megyn, all I want for 2022 is Stephen Breyer to retire. Am I wrong?
No, that's what we all want, Mehdi. I want that very much. I will be sending up good vibes to the retirement gods. I think he's served the court very well, and now it is time to go. This might be the Democrats' last chance to replace him if things go poorly in the midterms. I think we've seen that Mitch McConnell absolutely will not confirm a Supreme Court justice under a Democratic president if he has control of the Senate. So, Stephen Breyer, thank you for your service, and I hope you enjoy your summer and your retirement.
I know, we're all going to be watching what happens there. Melissa, last word to you. I don't want to end the show or 1st of January on a bad note. Let's end on a positive note. Joe Biden confirmed more new judges to the federal bench in his first year than any president since Reagan, I believe, and a very diverse group of judges in terms of gender and race and background, right?
That's exactly right. And we are seeing not just judges that look like America, but judges whose professional experience really reflects the diversity of the legal profession. So public defenders, individuals who have worked in unions. We're not seeing the sort of standard former prosecutor, former state court judge being put up on the bench, but rather individuals who have done work in voting rights, like Myrna Perez of the Second Circuit. We've seen nominations that really run the gamut, and younger judges. So again, running a play that the Federalist Society has been doing for many years, putting really young judges on the bench. Now the Democrats are starting to play the same kind of long game.
They are indeed. Let's see if it pays off. As Megyn pointed out, this may be the last year they could do anything at the Supreme Court level. Anyways, Melissa Murray, Megyn Hatcher-Mays, appreciate you both taking time out of your New Year's Day morning to join us on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Megyn.